Hi, it's Stephen here at Bland Designs. And what I'm doing today is, and this will probably take me several days, is I'm going to try and make a book out of this one big sheet of paper. Now, I've been watching some YouTube videos and I've got some ideas for this. So the first thing I'm going to do is on this big sheet of print paper, it's a heavier paper. I don't know if it's a watercolor type. It's not really watercolor. It's for printmaking, I think. And it's hard to get it all in the shot because I'm not working at my usual desk because this is so big. I've got a table set up. I'll kind of give you an overview of what I've got here set up. So I'm set up on a collapsible table. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay down layers of color. I'm going to use stencils, basically the same thing I do in an art journaling page. And then I'm going to create the booklet from that. And so I'm going to take you through this stage by stage. Unfortunately, because of my setup for this, I can't really position a camera very well over the top of this so you can see what I'm doing. So I'll have to take video at different stages of this and then I'll splice them all together so you can see the whole process. So this is an experiment, and yeah, I guess I should label this as one of my crap videos because I don't really know what I'm doing here. And crap means creative recreation and play. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to dab color all over this sheet with a couple of sponges. I'll show you the sponges I've got out. I forgot I had these sponges. Move the brush out of the way. They're kind of texture sponges. I bought them some time ago. I'm not even sure. They're Artsy. That's the name of the company. And as you can see, they look pretty clean because I have never really used them. So I'm going to put some acrylic paint down on a piece of wax paper over here, use that as my palette, and I'm just going to steckle paint all over this big sheet. So I'll show you what happens when that's done. Okay, so now I've put down my first layer of paint and I picked four colors, a couple of shades of blue, some teal, or aquamarine, I'm not sure what color that is, and some purple. And I used those little sponge dabbers that I was showing you to apply this all over. And I tried to do it sort of random, and I've left a little bit of white space as well to make sure there's some texture. Just as a side note, I'm not that impressed by those little sponges that I used. I think I could have got just as good a layer of paint down just using an ordinary sponge you buy in a store. I don't think I needed those fancy ones. But anyways, that might have been why they've been sitting in my cupboard for a while. So this is just drying right now, and I'm not applying the heat gun to it because I'm kind of lazy. I don't want to get out my extension cord and run my heat gun over to this part of the room. Oh, and I had some leftover paint, so I just ran these two tags through what was left of the paint, and I might keep these off to the side, and anything that's left over I may add to the tag. So I'm getting a twofer here. Getting a couple of tags and my paper for the booklet. I might be able to even incorporate those tags into the booklet when I'm finished. So what am I going to do next? I think next I'm going to get out my Tim Holtz tissue paper. Haven't used this in a while. And I think I'm going to lay down some random pieces of tissue paper using some gel matte medium, maybe fluid matte medium actually might be better with this. And just all over this sheet. And when I get that done, I'll come back and show you the result from that. Okay, so I finished laying down some tissue paper on top of all of this, and I'm going to let this air dry on its own. The sheet of paper I'm using isn't all that thick, and I didn't gesso it beforehand, so it is warping a little bit, but I'm not going to worry about that too much because I figure after I get all the different layers on, then I can take a hot iron to it and just press over the top of it, and that'll flatten it out enough. And after all, this is going to be folded up anyways for the booklet. I'm liking the color and I'm liking the texture right now. And I had a little tissue paper left over, so I did my two tags. I added that onto those as well. So yeah, I'm going to go off and have something to eat right now, a little lunch, and then I'll come back. And I think the next stage of this is I'm going to get out my Tim Holtz stencils, and I'm going to do some stenciling with, I think I'll use acrylic paint on the next layer as well. Okay, so stay tuned for that. Okay, so I've laid down a stencil. I used only one, and the first color I put on, I was taking from the palette I've already been using, was sort of the tealy aquamarine green, but it wasn't dark enough, so I mixed it with a little bit of black paint, and then I went over with this stencil. Now, of course, the stencil, I did it very quickly, very roughly. I'm not looking for good definition here. I think it's a series of numbers, as you can see. I just want it more or less texture. And I'm going to continue adding texture. I've pulled out one of my Art Foamy stamps, this big one of the leaves. And I've mixed up some of the blue that I used, and I mixed it with a little white to make it a little lighter because things are getting a little dark on here. And so I want to lighten it up. And I'm going to brayer the paint onto this sponge, and I'm going to apply it in random spots all over the paper. So I'll show you that in a minute. Okay, so now I finished adding the Art Foamy stamp, the big one, and I did a little lighter shade of blue. That's what it kind of looks like there, and I did it all over, and it's subtle but still adds texture to it. And then just to lighten the whole piece up, I splattered some watered down white acrylic paint, watered it down, and used a fan brush and just splattered drops all over the top of it. So I think now this piece is done, so I'm going to let it sit and have a good thorough dry, and then I'm going to take it and do some folding and some cutting to make it into a little booklet. So I'll show you how that works in a few minutes. And here are the matching tags that I've made as well. Okay, so now I'm going to show you how to fold this. And this is going to be a little awkward because I'm trying to hold my iPhone while I show you this, okay? So the first thing you do is you're going to fold it in half long ways. So you just take it, flip it over, fold it in half, and there you have that half. Now I've already done this folding, so it makes it a little easier to show you. Then you're going to take it, open it up to the right side, and then you're just going to fold it in half this way again. Okay? So you folded it in half this way, you fold it in half this way. All right? Then you're going to open it up, and you're going to fold in this side to the center line, and you're going to fold the other side into the center line. So you have this, and that's all you're going to do. Now, I crease these very well too with my bone folder. So then you open it up, flip it over, and you'll see I have a slit here. And this is what you're going to do. From this line on this side, and from this line on this side, you're going to cut using a steel ruler and an X-Acto knife and a cutting board underneath, and just cut right across from this side to this side. So it's going to open up like that, okay? Then to fold it, all you have to do is flip it over. It's going to get tricky. Stand it up. And I'm sorry for this movement, but I don't know any other way to get this. So you see, in this shot, I set it up on its end, and you get this little part. Just pinch that in, and then fold these around, close it all up into a booklet. Now you might have to take your bone folder and straighten up your creases a little bit, because no pieces of paper are absolutely square. And I will have, if you see on mine, it opens this way. So those are your pages, your covers. And now what we're going to do is we're going to glue on the inside of these ones that join up. Okay, and you're just going to put your matte medium on these spots. And the easiest way to do this is probably not the way I'm doing it right now, as I make you sick here. So let me come back for just a second. Okay, so then what you're going to do is you're going to glue down some of these pages. That's why you only need to paint one side of this piece of paper, because you're not going to see the white side. So if you look, when I've got it folded and I open it up, I've got this area. This is going to have glue on it here, and this area is going to have glue. And then we're going to flip it over, and we're going to put glue on this area in there and on this area in here. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do now. So here's the finished product. Partially finished, actually, because there's more things I could do to it. But I just want to show you, I used the tag on the front and on the back to hide where I've glued the ribbon closure down across it. Goes from front to back, tied a little bow in it. Looks pretty good. Now I'm going to reveal the mistakes that I made. Okay, this should have a total of 8 inside pages, but I only have 6. The reason for that is that I accidentally glued the cover page, the back cover, to one of the inside pages. And by the time that I realized I had glued the two together, I couldn't get them apart without ripping it all to shreds. So I'm down 1 page. Of course, the advantage of that is I now have a really strong back cover. The other thing was that trying to glue those inside pages together, that was a little more difficult than I thought, trying to make the matte medium stick. And also, I don't know if that's really the best glue. I found that it kind of soaked through this paper. Now that could be the paper selection I picked. I used a paper for printing as opposed to, say, a watercolor paper. So next time maybe I'd make this out of watercolor paper. It gives it a little bit more strength, and I don't think things would soak through it quite the same. I also ripped one of the pages, a little section off, because I got some glue on that, and when I folded the book, closed it up, the pages stuck together, and I noticed it fairly soon, but when I pulled it apart, I ripped some of the page. But I just took some of the tissue paper I used before, laid down some matte medium, glued that over the top, and you don't even notice it. I finished off the edges using archival ink. Actually, it was a StazOn blue, Hawaiian it was called, around the outside edges, and that also where the pages might have showed a little bit of white. Rather than trying to cut those pages, I just simply put ink on them, and it blends it right into the rest of the cover. So here's a basic little booklet. First time I ever made one. I think in the future, when I make one of these, I think I will stick to a more conventional binding using something like, a sewing technique, as opposed to this cut the slit in the paper and fold it back. Reason being is I find the gluing process of it rather tedious, and I think I'd rather sew. But if you're not into sewing, then this might be the way to go. So yeah, I don't know what I'm going to do with it. I might even sew around the pages a little bit. I'm not sure. It's fairly thick. My needle might not go through, but I might try that, and I might put something in it. I don't know yet. Haven't decided what I'm going to do with it. It was really just the process I wanted to try. And I think the paper came out really quite pretty. So anyways, that's my little crap project for this week. Hope you enjoyed it. Bye-bye.